Hi, Happy New Year, everybody. I'm really proud to be introducing this hour. There's a lot of friends and incredible writers, and I couldn't be prouder to be the person to, I don't know, bring them on stage. First up, we have Stephanie LaCava. Round of applause. Stephanie LaCava is a writer based in New York City. Her work has appeared in Harper's Magazine, Art Forum, the New York Review of Books, Vogue, and Interview. Her debut novel, The Super Rationals, was published by Semiotext in 2020. Her latest, I Fear My Pain Interests You, by Verso in 2022. So please welcome Stephanie LaCava.
So I'm going to read a little text that's about one of Keats's odes, the Ode to Autumn, but I'm not going to read the actual ode. I'm going to read the text that accompanies it that a friend of mine wrote that I think is very beautiful. So we'll start there. But don't get uptight, the guns will not win this one. They are an incidental part of the action, which we better damn well be good at. What will win is mantras, the sustenance we give each other, the energy we plug into the fact that we touch, share food. The Buddha nature, to everyone friend or foe, like a million earthworms tunneling under this structure till it falls. Diane de Prima's revolutionary letter 7 gives hope to Keats' ode. This doesn't let to autumn off the hook, and besides, the poem wouldn't want that. What it wants is to show us the human incapacity for resisting beauty, to show us that it really is impossible to sometimes not to love the world, even when it provides ample evidence that it should not be loved. Keats does his best to present this state of affairs in a way that is neutral and detached. He refuses to make excuses for this poem to discharge its difficult energies in the vapid, hysterical idiom of complicity. Instead, he forces us to inhabit an excruciating contradiction. We are attached, despite everything, to this place that has been weaponized against us, where the earth ingests our oozing and its ambient noises muffle our screams. We are attached, too, to poems about this place, especially when they commute suffering to metaphor. A half-reaped furrow, a choir of ululating bugs. De Prima pulls up to this contradiction and calmly exterminates it. She begins with an appeal to those not necessarily in the know, to those perhaps more comfortable with odes than with Molotov cocktails, flamethrowers, bombs, whatever might be needed for what she calls the action. This is a euphemism, and it is also not. Like conspiracy, the action does not rise to the high status of an event. It is anonymous, collective, and extempore, a name for a concrete but open-ended intensity to which some unidentified people are giving everything they have for an unspecified amount of time. Think about how we might use those words in everyday speech to describe a happening of whose nature and contours and content we are basically ignorant. I'm going where the action is. In search of an undisclosed excitement, the action is between phenomenon wish. It is also a sort of code word. The part of the story where a bomb might drop, a rock might fly, an assassin get knocked off his horse, but you wouldn't want to say so out loud, not in certain company. Why the East Coast? Unlike California or the Midwest, the East Coast is densely populated, built up. This is the backdrop of De Prima's reassurance that even when there's possible to find a place to shoot a gun, but the East Coast with its vasarella, rash of universities hugging the shoreline, is also a green zone of sophistication and prestige. The kind of place where someone might dutifully suggest the reports of stones thrown at Peterloo's precursory cops are suspect if they come from Tory sources. Success in such a context would mean not only finding a place for target practice, nor only the success of an ongoing struggle that occasionally and unpredictably coils into the action. It would also mean silencing a pedantic chorus of scruples, turning instead to the mind-emptying practices of meditation, prayer, sex, and provisioning for death. Keats would appreciate this spin on Buddha nature, which, as De Prima suggests, means compassion for all living things, but also a divestment from any beliefs or attitudes motivated by ego. In De Prima's poem, Buddha nature has the same inborn voluptuous as negative capability. It is discovered in touch and eating together, in shared knowledge and brusque encouragement. Don't get uptight. Here is how De Prima inches past Keats as far as the loving world goes. Whereas Keats makes us sit in the discomfort of our own receptivity to beauty, the beauty of nature and of his poem, De Prima reminds us that we have to live for something and then orders us to do it and to do it with each other. His ode to autumn is a snapshot of one unacceptable aspect of an unacceptable existence, her letter an intimation of its fall. Fall, or rather falls, is the last word of De Prima's poem, which promises that a consciousness freed from multiple antagonism, friend and foe, gun and mantra, can turn impasse into action, loosening and untimely leveling the structure of one thing versus another. But that's not all this structure is. The structure is this poem, and as long as it is not a gun, not sex, not a mantra, and not a million earthworms, it also has a bomb coming to it. De Prima's language is not Keats. How could it be? But they are making the same promise, to hold so tight onto poetry, it surrenders its shape. To hold so tight onto us that we do too. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Next up is Shavisa Woods. Shavisa Woods is the recipient of, thank you, is the recipient of the Shirley Jackson Award, the Zora Neale Hurston Award for fiction, the Kathy Acker Award in writing, also the author of 4 books, and currently serves as the executive director of Steve Cannon's A Gathering of the Tribes, which was featured in the 2022 Whitney Biennial. So please give it up for Shavisa.
Hello, St. Mark's Poetry Project. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year. Oh, okay, I'm just gonna. Now I can say I had musical accompaniment, so I can take more time. I'm joking, I'm not going to. All right, I'm just going to read. I was trying to choose between reading something I've read here before or something that's kind of new. And I'm going to read a new poem that I think is subtle but beautiful. As many of you know, maybe many of you don't know, I like to write about rural poverty because that's something I knew for a long time. So this poem was written to my little cousin when he was a teenager. It's titled Green Zircon. Thank you for listening. Poverty's fertile plant, roots, in the base of the trimmed pond willow, whose weep is not permitted to touch ground now, because nearby trailer park children like to hide there and shout obscenities at the moment golfers swing pricey sticks against dented orbs. Over the years since I last saw you, you have turned 16 and your eyes have fallen lower than the shadowed sand trap and your mind seems to be digging itself deeper instead of out. Each day our family places 2 pills before you, one shaped like a missile to launch you into morning, the other round and chalky, lulling you to night. You willingly swallow the means of your constraint. I find it stunning how your throat guides its own oppression, bobbing past Adam's apple and the tiny ticking noise your tongue makes against ice water as our stern and beloved grandmother watches, barely nodding, as your sunken eyes meet mine in the silent beg of a prisoner knowing someone else in the room knows they are innocent. Innocence's tears wet the blades as we walk in medicated silence of midnight over the grounds of the empty golf course. You lead me to my castrated weeping pond willow and silently snatch up a toad with the quick snatch of a boy, familiar with nature's stealth. I flinch and you assure me you are done killing things that are not yourself, at least for now. You apologize for dead rabbits, birds, thousands of dismembered insects, emerald mush like this toad's brilliant skin flashing under the assault of your light, its glassy eyes moving in ripples, plasmic spheres deciphering nothing of our humanity. It seems to be pointing to something very near us that I will never perceive. You hold the toad like a pistol, pointing to apologies for dead rabbits, and I realize you are still young enough to be honest. You apologize for insects, but I recall the molesting of my dog and your pregnant mother pushed down the stairs most vividly. I do not mention or seek recourse for your childhood atrocities, but wish to apologize to you, and know forgiveness will never be found, not even possibly snatched from these imperceptible shadows. We are unforgivably American. Violence is seeping from you, wetting your stiffened skin and rippling your eyes to unconscionable revenge, deciphering everything of humanity. I touch its gooey head before it is released into the water, sending a small splash, unsettling the surface, never reaching the water's edge, where poverty's fertile plant roots in the base of the trimmed pond willow, whose weep is not permitted. Thank you.
Next up, we have Wendy Lauderman. Wendy Lauderman's first full-length collection, A Reaction to Someone Coming In, will be published by Future Poem in fall 2023. So let's give it up.
Thanks, David. Thanks for coming, and thanks, Kay, for inviting me. I'm going to read two, one short, one long. Steep ravine. Anemones incriminated on rock respond shyly to fingers in the socket, suggesting the face is just an expression, or else daylight hits different beneath water. If water were a condition of rock and not the other way around, our jagged avenue of differently shaped lanes would swallow both ends of the rubber spaghetti, clutched sensibly between two opposing instincts that both kill the cat. Sand keeps the time between your hips, at which point I open them up in order to come back the day after tomorrow. If months were days, if the bird song were spelled out phonetically, I would come back home and cut the first slices small, knowing that cake is just as fickle in size as states. For instance, we had no way of knowing the shape of California before we got there. Okay, number two. Prime. The key to the allegorical form is a basement in Alabama. Robbed of topsoil, nothing grows in these gray zones where the party is a paralyzed flash mob in shrapnel or glitter, wishful fictions of renaming the playground. But deep down, you know that language was never actuarial. Call to get a quote. Call the super who moved us to blow beauty and brains all over the supply chain. Made fresh daily, this hesitant declension of flowers captures something inexchangeable in the trade route. Skies imply the absence of aluminum, so the users return in twos. When the last joint is fused, no knees remain to prey on. But they prey on impulse and riddle and error, prey to gods and robotics and insolvency. These new birds can memorize the address, reciting the bushes in evidentiary backstroke. Zoom in to find scribbles in the window saying death to executive realism. This efficiency is killing too efficiently. Each day is crowded and lonely, coagulating into atoms instead of a real block or body, an indivisible slab of granite on the island. Interspersed behind the columns is a hyphenated blind spot. When you least expect it, the shadows assemble into nighttime. Inside is an isolating colony of hell, so described by the one who confided in the operator. He repeats the welcome line in crisis, saying, "Hi, it's Chris from Loss Prevention, calling to prevent this loss," the operator, unable to solve a snowfall that started so long ago. Calls come in from Lebanon, confusing the continents. The line says my friend is collapsing like boxes in the brutally wet desert behind cardboard cutouts of real horizons and representations of daylight. There is nothing neutral in a place name, but the gruesome confusion of nursery rhymes take the reindeer way too seriously. From the inside, you see no snow atop the mountains, but a suspiciously milky runoff feeds these higher wait times, putting pressure on the weather to remit to this standard of service and delivery and debt. Compulsively Googling running shoes, sending wishes into the universe, not as truth, but a carefully translated message confessed only to stamp out the appetite. Ashamed to stow that shame away. Call back a call center in Texas to say you never got the message. Log a complaint that the box never came. Jason says the scooter is yours for free, so you're free to ride around the joint anarchic birthday as the renegade you claim to be. Jason is killed by a chorus of complaints made in office, wrought in local rock as a monument to a very big mistake. Now you have to repay. Now you have to repent and repay and love him. But nothing too difficult this time. It is too much to tune in all the time. Blow up the dune buggy. Let the piñata leak stocks and options onto the confections collected in its belly. In real time, in another frame, the coin purse burst its urine all over the runway. Her shimmering initials spell out the boundaries of a carapace in heat. Each element cries out the same, but these ballads are neutralized in unison, sung in rounds to form an insular melodic plot point that vocalizes its goal and then dies. Prime time whistles between the wind chimes. Some tall order has slipped beneath the cracks of a strike to find your wish in a tinted fulfillment. The trail was never so honestly blazed. Boxes and boxes and boxes are blocking the way. Bleached urchins leach toxins in the office. Balloons of too much future just burst into the uniform. You peed in your pants. You spilled magic all over the balance sheet. The unseasonal breeze is drying alibis for downtime in the break room. Ragged hands crowded round the refund, saying grace for different destinations. Each arrival discloses the story of its origin. Every delivery bruises its escape route. Reach out to touch the box, but leave no trace. There are still no solutions to waiting, but the future is a fruit with many names. A package came for you. It was grazed by amber rains for the 4th time today. In that sense, they came for you too. Thanks.
Next up, we have Ted Dodson. Ted Dodson is the author of An Orange, published by Pioneer Works, Wonder, 2021. The co-translator of Death at the Very Touch by Jamie Sons, and is a former editor of the Poetry Project newsletter. So please welcome Ted Dodson.
Hi, everybody. Thank you to the Poetry Project for having me as the hidden track for this hour. I'm going to read a pastiche of a Bernadette poem called February 25. It's from her book Poetry. It's a 1976 book that came out through Culture Foundation. And you can find it for free. It's on Eclipse Archive. And I really invite everybody here to try your hand at this poem. It's really beautiful. There's such amazing repetition in it. There's kind of a weird sort of formalism that sort of develops throughout that was so much fun to try my hand at. And this poem is dedicated to Rainer Diana Hamilton, with whom I kind of came up with the whole idea of doing this poem together. December 3, and collected feelings of being comfortable around the operative word, while around unvisited tombs or even desired. John, whose memorial is fucked under, and John, whose words say simply to be casual and to have the wish to heal. And the heart is too far buried in the sand to tell. Around a repetition of and through watched stretches of sand, falling from one chamber to the next, stream together to form a picture. This heartening which is rendered so clearly, how after enough time a bone heals, and healed, resolved to better health, which is still entropy, healed like that. It's in the bag, so to say, an open form or a form to empty first and shake out all that could be healing to start again from the unhistoric acts of oneself, a censer of loves and hates swinging in time, a matter of opinion that knows us better as students. In time, when the students among us are diffused from what couples us here, wage or perspective, like San Juan viewing his Christ's body from above before dropping from the window to meet them, to lay the hair of his beloved God upon his breast. In that poem, met in restructuring a collection of the heart's lines, healing over time, which is to say endless when absence is lived with, unmet in the saintly courtyard emptied of mortal witness, so the spirits can inhabit freely, and your closed eyes turn in their annex, that poem when you're writing yourself. Happy New Year.
Thank you. What an honor to introduce the next performers. Eileen Miles with Ryan Sawyer. Eileen Miles believes literature is pathetic, and to prove it has a new book of poetry, A Working Life, out in the spring. And Ryan Sawyer is a New York musician who believes music heals, so I'm excited to see them perform.
We're almost there. I still want to question the tree. Yeah? Okay. Because I intuited that the world was against me, I wanted to bring it down around us. And that punk gesture, that imagined gesture, made sex very exciting. My whole life was in the balance every time we fucked. I was a gambler with my cunt. I was a gambler with my education and dreams and his dreams. So I wanted to destroy him and blow up the house and kill the children. If he was sanguine about erasing my dreams, I could at least be glad to upend his. He would be stuck forever in a middle management job in a department store, drinking too much after work, and I would be standing on the first floor of a 3-decker in Somerville, my aunt's house essentially, and I would be holding a baby, turning round and round. And I would stand in that kitchen for hundreds of years. The baby's head growing large and small, my dress growing flowered, my feet, my bare feet, sandals on my feet, Birkenstocks, polio shoes, Doc Martens. I would stand there holding my baby in slips, in punk rock orange silk slips. I would wear cutoffs, tight, short ones. In my Birkenstocks, I had a beard and I was wearing a kilt and a pair of high-top sneakers and tattoos on the calves of my legs. I was singing and humming and smiling at my baby. Behind me, there was a giant window in a tree with red and orange and yellow leaves. It's Harvard College. I'm a faculty wife. I wear a maroon velvet dress and my hair is in braids and I'm holding my baby. Someone leans a mic towards my mouth and I recite a poem by Christina Rossetti. I'm holding my baby and murmuring the poem. He said, see where the North Star is and see that star way down there, almost at where you'd imagine the horizon? Well, 15,000 years ago, that star used to be where the North Star is, and I imagine the circle of space turning and turning for thousands of years. I am standing on a hill. I am wearing a piece of old leather and some beads are around my neck, and I can feel the cool night air, but it is good for the child to be breathing in it. Though he told me to not go out, I am walking, I am holding, my baby is dead. My baby has been dead for thousands of years. It's my grandmother's baby. It's a baby named Veronica that died so young, but I'm holding her in an apartment in Somerville. And my name is Eileen. I was born in Ireland, and the kids are at school. I have so many babies. The sound of them screaming and playing, and I was a baby once. My baby is dead. I am holding my baby. My baby is smiling, and the stars go round. There are children running round and round in circles, boys and girls. I am one of them while I'm holding my baby. I am looking up at my mother's face. I can smell her breath, and I don't know what I am, but I am in the air, and in the things warm around, she is turning around. There are animals around my ankles. Cats and otters and roosters and chickens and dogs are running around, and tiny mice are running through the room, through the barnyard, across the parking lot, across the street, and horns are honking, and no one can believe I am crossing this street like a crazy person holding my baby. I am sitting in the subway with my baby on my lap and in my arms, and people are smiling at me, and they are smiling at my baby, and I don't know where I am going because I still hate the baby, hate the baby, hate the baby. Mind, I am looking up at my mother, but I am holding my baby in my mind, in the world, with buildings rising behind me and around me, and buildings coming down, and a cannonball smacks, but the baby is sleeping, and the clock is ticking, and the heat is rising as the machinery clicks and bangs. The baby is in my arms all the time. I am standing in a pot filled with dirt, and a plant is beside me, and my legs are covered. The dirt is rising, and my ankles are covered, and now my calves and the dirt is up to my thighs, and I cannot allow my baby to be covered and drowned in dirt. I am climbing and climbing up the side of a mountain while I'm holding my baby. I'm in a mall, and people like me are not allowed here. He says, "Ma'am, move along. I'm sorry, but you can't." And my breast is in my baby's mouth, It feels so weird. And the baby is staring up at me, and I hate that bastard. I hate him so much for fucking me. I woke up from a blackout. I came out of a dark dream, and I was holding my baby, and maybe it was him. And the heat clangs, and everybody thinks it's fine, and I can't let it happen. I said no, and I got out of the sleeping bag, and it was night in Brewster State Park, and all these trees and swings, and I made it not happen. I stopped it now. It didn't happen at all. Don't look at me, baby. Get your baby face away. I am nobody's mother. Rape me 12 times. You're my kid.
Wow, thank you, Eileen and Ryan. Cool. Next up, we have Peter Mills-Weiss and Julia Monsi. Peter Mills-Weiss and Julia Monsi collaborate together. Their next project, Protec, I'm going to mispronounce this, ATEC, will have its US premiere at the Under the Radar Festival at the Public Theater this January. So please give it up for Peter and Julia. Thank you.
Hello. Hi. So I'm Peter, and this is Julia, and we're gonna present. Oh no. We're gonna present a. It's good. We're gonna present an excerpt of our play called Protec Attack. And so before we begin, I'm gonna have to set the scene, right? So the first key piece of information is that Julia is miserable. And the second key piece of information is that she's going to tell you about someone who is extremely important and whose name is
Chester.
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 Who is Chester?
That's a really good question. Chester is the nurse who was with me when I died, and he is the exact opposite of me. He is deeply content and full of life. He sees the good in everything, even in me. He's healthy. He's sweet. He functions. He's selfless, but relatable. He's masculine, but non-toxic. He's from Los Angeles, a city in California. He exercises. He can fold a fitted sheet. He has a virile, outdoorsy kindness that all cultures intrinsically venerate. His hugs work. On everyone. And there is something magical about his simple delicious cooking. Attentive husband, present father, friend, brother, lover. He's played Minecraft. He's played Fortnite. He's played Call of Duty. He's damn well played it all, and he's an incredible singer, actually. But he doesn't show off, he blends. He makes art for himself, even though his work is leagues ahead of even the most skilled professional. He's in therapy, and he appreciates it. But his therapist is the one who benefits most from their sessions. He is a triple threat poet, free verse, sonnets, and limericks. Published in the New Yorker and the New Jerser. Pulitzer, MacArthur, Heisman, TED Fellow. He can talk to any insect and drastically improve its life. When it comes to laundry, he's a folder, but not in poker. In poker, he goes all in because he's brave. But he's vulnerable. And he can climb anything. And he makes it look easy. Like he knows parkour. Because he does know parkour. Parkour, the art of moving rapidly through an area, typically an urban environment, negotiating obstacles by running, jumping, climbing, and doing flips. He's kind of an ambassador for the sport of parkour. And he loves to skateboard. And when I die, he's holding my hand. And he's saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And he's crying. He looks amazing when he cries. He doesn't know that I am his opposite. He doesn't know anything about me. Chester. His name is Chester. That's who we're talking about.
Is that all?
Yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Next up, we have Charles Theonia. Charles Theonia is a poet, enthusiast, and transsexual without direction. Their chaplet, If a Piece Falls Off the Pone, Keep It, is forthcoming from Belladonna. So please welcome Charles.
We're on the waiting list to enter the conscious world. Friends pass in and out of us and one another, which is pressed too close for us to see. An intimacy of forgetting what belongs to each. In the orbital sociality of a cat, demanding and receding, the line is an unstable container, so I'm removed from you in the moment of thinking us. Obsession is bad for productivity, better for rewiring the sex circuit's limits. The non-human expression of our presence rubs against your leg to feel out whether you'd still like to be right here with me. It is site-specific, if the site is dreams. I was doing something pressing and ineffectual, like resubmitting an invoice. Asleep and awake, I forgot again. Lying on the floor is a favorite thing. I've brought my phone to the ground so I can descend into my open tabs. Bathos is brittle vegan, purple bee, Bjork pod 2 tongues, Oniric mythology, cleared for CUNY health verification. What did Riverdue say yes to? How much do chihuahuas sleep? And researched my internet's unconscious, like Bernadette prepping to have all her dreams in one night. Fuck, I said, I forgot to give them my resume, and held up a pink padded Ziploc containing 2 raw eggs, yolks sloshing intactly. So it was a dream of my teacher, an institutional irreverence, and the despair it doesn't quite stave off, forgetting to spit patooey on my CV. As a self-avowed intellectual featherweight, I could stand to develop dream endurance or else blow away. I wasn't here until I heard the dove under the air conditioner. Friends dressed me in strips of their words, where I gathered them in a basket hanging from my elbow, wrapped in string to dry. I rehydrate our images for today's experience. A book leaks from the corners of our eyes. I wash my vegetables and they won't ferment. We hang in the air condensing. Please don't send me back to work. Take me to the forest where I can decompose. Decay is an ecstasy of being in the world. If we believe Daryl and reality turns us away from the other world in dreams, fucking one of us in front of the other, then all dreams are sexy and life keeps us from sleep and its glowing exit sign. I haven't been remembering my dreams. You say I need to spend more hours practicing sleep so dreams can find me. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Shiv Kotecha, the author. Shiv is the author of The Switch, published by Wonder in 2018, and Xtrigue, published by Make Now in 2015. Please welcome Shiv to the stage.
Thanks, David. Happy New Year. I'm going to read from the Poetry Project's annual poetry journal that I published, a portrait of my friend TM. Hello. Hello. Afternoon. Have a little paper butterfly. God, it's a real one. Wings, shoulders, sets of 5. I put this flower out and it was on the golden drop, and even if it doesn't grow, hello. All right, okay, because, well, it seems like the voice I have in my head, I've got to remember it's coming from inside. Hello. But also that this is kind of happening, and so a kind of like chaos feeling emerges. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's just moon plus distance, a scrim. But you have to wait a long time for it. Plenty of slowly felt impulses, several long periods of misunderstanding, and sittings spaced out over 5 years of being, and this part is a metaphor, asleep for love to appear like this. Damn, it's the 2 things we do, isn't it? Tell me, when did you start painting? As a person? Yes. So I think that I kind of started painting in what might be pre-memory, except I remember it. I was 2.5 or 3 when I moved to my house, and I would go up a thin set of stairs to this little attic space above the apartment my parents rented on the 2nd floor of this house in Baldwin. My dad had turned into a little studio space, and I would go up this set of stairs, and I guess I began by finger painting. Yes, I have memories. I have happy memories and other ones of people downstairs fighting, and in them I painted about being happy and about other memories, as of the stairs and the people on the other side, I don't know, of them. I have, you get me, Shiv, these depression memories, and one of the big ones is painting, that it came with me despite them. It was my dad. He wanted to become an artist. He went to SVA and then quit the union, and he came from a long line of pro-demo revolutionaries. What do they call them? The 48ers, the Germans that left Germany and came here, right, to fight in the Civil War, that sort of thing. Building after it a set company for vaudeville acts in Bushwick, just like a block away from where I live with Liam and my father's father. He was a stagehand at St. James Theater. So it was my dad who grew up around his father, the stage, and a set of paints. then it was me. He wanted to paint right out of college, but then he had me at like 23, so when he was like 25, he'd always be coming home from work and always working double shifts and wanting to paint, but working 2 full-time jobs and starting, not on his own, but with this guy Jeff, a mural company. So painted really all of the time for money, trying to avoid being on Long Island with the family and not coming from one. So maybe he was at the dinner table, but likely if you wanted to hang out with him, you would have to go to his studio, which was lovely, like seascapes. He would go down to the beach and he would make seascapes, and I would follow him into the mountains with a paint box smaller than this one. And he used to take a lot of pictures of us, and he would make the castle and that kind of thing. So my life feels like this kind of funny, you know? I mean, obviously, here we are on Ocean Boulevard, and I'm painting the kind of places my father was wanting to paint. It makes me so happy that you're losing your mind. And can you just adjust your, that's good. Yeah, sure. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it isn't just a feeling I had years ago, but something since, the sense that it was wrong to not just sit down and kiss her and to immediately plan to get martinis when we're off the island. I like this. I like it too. It's more a scene of recognition and less a picture of it. Can you tell me about your horses? One Christmas, right after my grandfather died, my father was at the house. He found this old picture of a storefront and some horses, of 2 horses, and my great-grandfather to their side. So he calls me up, and he goes, TM. He's like, what is 195 Christie Street? And I say, Dad, that's my gallery, and I'm going to have a show there. And he's like, holy shit. And so I'm like, what? And he's like, you're never going to believe it, but on the back of this photograph of your great-grandfather, a storefront and 2 horses, it says 195 Christie Street. So that was that. I fell down a research hole, found the article about the horses who escaped a fire that began next door inside the cabinet shop of some guy named August Jansen of 197 Christie Street, a few minutes before 1 in the morning on January 23, 1858, owing to the quantity of shavings and seasoned lumber he had piled up. The fire made such rapid headway before any fire companies reached the ground that 4 buildings were burned, a loss of $26,000 and a set of tools valued at $40 for each of the 50 or so men who were in the employ on which there's no insurance, just gone. And about 6 horses in the building were rescued, and someone took a photo of them running out of the fire. So it's all this kind of dance with hidden abstractions and abstract structures, my horses. They're like these flowy states of things being carefully placed. If you look at them, they're not in the rectangle. Oh my God, a cigarette. Inner, the voice in me, plus some coughing, like a warm zip above tape hiss, such that everything's loose bath. Not about perfect bath, about this kind of loose bath. It's a hard thing to explain. Heaven is a kiss and a smile and outer fucking space. Exactly, exactly, exactly. You don't just get to that rectangle accidentally, that foot is exactly on the golden spot in the dark corner of the thing, so that he, being Caravaggio, knew he didn't have to do anything else because that foot was going to anchor it. That. Exactly. It's funny, I don't think I've ever talked about it before, but yesterday the moon shot like blood clot red into the brainless blue me sky, at which point you confirm that I've lost it, that I'm a goner, that things come back like these butterflies inside me. Oh, you're getting in the shadows of this tree now. I haven't done a quick portrait in a minute. Are you enjoying yourself? I am struggling. I'm not going to finish this right now in a way I'm necessarily going to be permanently happy about, but actually, I also feel like this is so nice, and I like talking so much, slightly distracting, but great. If I stop talking, I'll die. Are you enjoying this yourself? Yeah, I am, and I'm really, really hoping this works, because if it can be done alone, I reject it. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Shiv. The next one, also has a bio that I don't think really does her justice. It says Sarah Nicole Prickett is a writer living in New York. But I will add that she is a gift and a great talent, and I love her very much. And I think whatever she shares with us tonight, I'm excited to hear. So, Sarah, if you're in the room.
I was a writer who couldn't find my vape. I will be reading a poem I wrote for somebody who asked me to write a poem for them or about them, and then 18 months later said, I never asked you to write a poem about me, that would be weird. And then 2 minutes after that said, when I asked you to write a poem about me, I was joking. And 6 weeks after that said, oh my God, you're writing a poem about me? Wow. I don't write poems, and this is a poem in the sense that I didn't write it, it's in my head. Nicole, this is so embarrassing. I can only do it because you're not here. I was there, I believe, when you rolled into the doorway in your big yellow jacket, and I thought, this is how Copernicus felt. And then I felt like a photon, you know, like a tiny particle of you, or like you looking at me was changing me from a wave into a particle, as if I knew I had a choice and I was making it. I don't know how we got so opposed. Animals, like, you know, a duck and a leopard who don't know they're different, is what we were like and are. I am sorry I made you have to say to me, I'm not your enemy. I know that. My enemy is this guy, an editor at a website ostensibly devoted to American literature, who, in an interview I had the misfortune to read, said that he did not care for the novels of Henry James. Vestigial hatred of gay people, including women, aside, I am so proud of our propinquity, and I plan to continue in it publicly and privately until I die. So, I will make you a deal. I will buy you a new copy of Wings of the Dove with a slightly larger typeface, and you have to promise to understand it. It's not hard. Our relationship, you may have noticed, is also syntactically kind of weird, bizarrely punctuated, comma, 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 semicolon, colon, em dash, ellipses. And many people think it should have ended a few dependent clauses ago. It's about how things can't be undone. Maybe we will never again be as we were. But you can see even now how I'm struggling to find an ending. If I break, you break, vice versa. Don't make the poem about making the poem, is what you said. Why? What do you think love is? Thank you, thank you. You changed my life.